Ever feel like you're just drowning in to-dos, bouncing between work and family and that stack of books on your nightstand that never seems to get any smaller.
Yeah.
And on top of all that, you're still supposed to be like making progress on your big goals.
Right.
It can feel kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure.
So today we're diving into The Strategic Mind by Tyler Andrew Cole to hopefully find a better way.
Okay.
And this audiobook, it's not just about checking things off a list, right? It's about tackling life with, more purpose.
That's a good way to put it.
Like strategically.
And it's easy to think that strategic thinking is something you're born with. Some people just have it and others don't.
Right. But
this book, it really challenges that.
Okay.
It frames it as a skill, something you can build, like learning a new language or, like learning to play an instrument.
Right.
Before we go on with the podcast, I invite you to download the free bundle, which contains the ebook and an executive summary of all the chapters with the key takeaways. Click on the first link in the description to claim your free bundle now and maximize your learning potential. Now it's free, but it won't be for long, so make sure to grab it while you can.
And so imagine if you could master that.
Yeah.
Imagine the impact that would have, not just on your career, but on like all your goals, your relationships, just like feeling more in control of where your life is headed.
Yeah, that's huge. And Cole, he doesn't just tell you to like think big picture.
Right.
He actually gives you tools to actually do it, which I appreciated.
Yeah, it's practical.
And one that really stood out was this idea of a personal mission statement, which I'll be honest, when I first heard that, I was like, ugh, that sounds very corporate jargony.
Yeah.
But I don't know, hear me out on this one.
It makes a difference.
It does. It really does.
Yeah. It's powerful because it forces you to define what actually matters to you. What are your priorities? Yeah. What are your values?
Right.
And once you have that, right, you have this kind of like a North Star.
Okay.
To guide you when you're faced with all these decisions, whether they're big or small.
Right.
You have that to go back to.
So you can like filter decisions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it becomes a lot easier to say no to things.
Oh, yeah.
To things that seem urgent. Everyone's telling you this is so important.
You got to do this right now.
Yeah. But if it doesn't fit in with your mission, it's easier to say no. You're not just like reacting to the chaos of the day-to-day.
You're not just like bouncing around like a pinball.
Exactly. You're shaping your path more intentionally.
Okay. So we're thinking long term. But Cole also talks about how interconnected our lives are.
Right.
And he calls it, this is another one, the you are an ecosystem concept.
Yeah.
Which, again, when I first heard it, I was picturing like moss growing on my brain.
That's a good visual.
Not really the look I'm going for, but...
Not quite. But I get what you're saying. But it's more about, think of it this way, right? All the different areas of your life, they're all kind of intertwined like a web.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And so like, let's say you decide to prioritize sleep.
Right.
Getting enough sleep, which let's be honest, a lot of us don't do.
Guilty as charged.
But if you can prioritize that consistently, right? It can have these ripple effects on your work performance, your mood, how you show up in your relationships.
Right. Because you're not sleep deprived and therefore a monster.
Exactly. You're more focused, less irritable, more energy to invest in the people you care about.
Right.
It's amazing how much of a difference it makes.
Before we continue, I want to remind you that you can always find the free audiobook version of this book on the main Grow to the Top channel. Click on the second link in the description to start listening now.
So it's less about just compartmentalizing things. Like this idea of work-life balance. Maybe it's less about keeping things totally separate.
Right.
And more about how, maybe getting better in one area can actually like lift all the others up a little bit.
Totally. It's like they're all feeding into each other.
Right. It makes those people, the ones that seem like they have it all together.
Right, yeah.
Makes them seem a little less superhuman.
Exactly. They figured out how their personal ecosystem thrives.
They got the moss growing in the right places.
Exactly. And part of that is figuring out what's tripping you up.
Right.
Like what's not working. And the strategic mind, it really encourages this idea of like digging deeper. Okay. Not just like fixing the surface level problems.
Because those will just keep coming back.
Exactly.
Like whack-a-mole.
Yes.
You can hit one down and another one pops up.
Exactly. So it's like...
it's like that squeaky door, right? You can keep oiling the hinge.
Right.
But until you figure out why it's misaligned in the first place,
exactly,
that squeak is going to come back to haunt you.
It's going to keep coming back. And this is where Cole introduces this thing. It's called the 5 whys technique.
5 whys.
5 whys. And it's about playing detective
Okay.
with your own life.
I like it. I can get behind that.
So let's say, for example, you're constantly missing deadlines.
Okay. Yeah. Happens to the best of us.
Right. So you could try to just be more organized.
Right.
But maybe if you start asking why, that's a technique. You ask why 5 times, you might uncover something like, oh, I'm actually like terrified of success.
Oh.
Or I keep taking on projects that deep down I don't even care about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Right. So you've got to figure out the why behind the why.
So by the time you've asked why 5 times,
5 times.
you've really like peeled back the layers.
You've gone deep.
You've gone deep. You're in the core of the onion.
And that's powerful.
Okay. So we're getting to the root cause.
That's where the real change happens.
Okay.
Because then you can address the root, not just the symptom.
So we've talked about the past a little bit.
Right.
But what about this whole idea of looking towards the future, which is, let's face it, full of unknowns.
Right. And it can be kind of scary.
It can be a little intimidating, yeah.
Right. But Cole, his thing is, he says we can actually use that to our advantage.
Okay.
Instead of being afraid of the unknowns, lean into them. He calls it scenario planning.
Scenario planning.
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard of that in like a business context.
Right. Exactly.
But how do you apply it to your own life?
So it's not about like actually predicting the future. No crystal ball required.
Okay, good, because I don't have one.
Nobody does. It's about saying, okay, there are all these different things that could happen.
Okay.
Multiple possibilities.
Right.
And what if I just sat down and thought about a few of them and thought about, okay, if that happened, how would I respond?
So like have a plan.
Kind of. But it's more about being prepared, being open to different possibilities. So like, imagine you're in, I don't know, like the tech industry, which is constantly changing. You wouldn't base your whole career on things staying exactly as they are now, right?
Right.
So maybe you start thinking about, okay, what if a new technology comes along and completely disrupts everything?
Right, which happens all the time.
All the time. Exactly. So you'd ask, okay, what skills would be valuable in that kind of future? What if I had to completely change career paths?
Oh, wow.
And then you start mapping it out a little bit. You know, you start brainstorming. Okay, what would I do? How would I adapt?
So it's less about having like a crystal ball and more about
Being flexible.
Yeah.
Adapt.
Having that like flexible, adaptable mindset.
Yeah.
And that in itself, that can be really empowering.
It is. Because you're not so caught off guard when change inevitably happens.
Right, because it's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's almost like, you know, when you have a backup plan, even if things don't go exactly how you pictured it,
Right.
You're like, okay, I can handle this.
Yeah. You're not totally freaking out.
Exactly. But the strategic mind, it's not just about like external factors, right?
Right.
It's also about the internal roadblocks
Oh,
that
absolutely.
we all kind of face.
Yeah, the mental game.
The mental game. We've all been there.
Yeah.
You set a goal.
Yeah.
You're super motivated. You're going to do it.
Right. You're going to crush it.
I'm going to crush it. And then life happens.
And then you don't. Yeah.
And then I don't.
Yeah.
And we tend to blame things like willpower
Oh, yeah.
or motivation.
Motivation is fleeting.
It is so fleeting. Like it was here yesterday and now it's gone.
Fun.
And Cole actually argues that those are kind of fickle friends.
Yeah, they're not reliable.
Not reliable.
Not at all. What is more reliable, though,
Yeah.
is building systems.
Systems.
So think about it, right? If you only worked out when you felt motivated,
I'd never work out.
never. You'd work out like once a year, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. Like New Year's resolution time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But if you build it into your schedule, you make it a habit.
Make it a system.
It's like brushing your teeth. You don't wait until you're like, I feel like brushing my teeth today.
Yeah,
You just do it.
You just do it because it's the system.
It's a system.
Okay, I like that.
So you're not relying on that willpower, which comes and goes.
Okay, it's less about how you feel and more about the system.
The system you've built. And that's what makes this book kind of different.
Okay.
It's not just about setting goals and making to-do lists.
It's not the mental game,
It's about the mental game of personal growth, which is huge.
which we often ignore.
We totally do.
We just try to power through.
Yeah, we're like, just work harder, be more disciplined.
Yeah, just grit.
But Cole, he's like, hold on a second. let's actually look at the mental side of this. He calls self-awareness
Okay.
like the cornerstone of all this, of strategic thinking.
So knowing yourself.
Knowing yourself. Think about it this way. You could have the most amazing detailed map, right?
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
But if you get car sick super easily
Oh, no.
and you're trying to go on a cross-country road trip,
That's not going to be fun.
it's going to be miserable. That map isn't going to help you.
Okay. No. Because you didn't account for
Your own needs.
your own, like, quirks.
Right.
Right.
Right. Okay, so we have to.
We have to know ourselves, know our tendencies, know our weaknesses, our strengths, all of it.
So we can plan accordingly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If we don't do that, we end up sabotaging ourselves.
Even with the best of intentions.
Even with the best laid plans.
Yeah.
We're like that saying, wherever you go, there you are.
Oh, I hate that saying.
It's true.
It is true. It's so true.
But maybe less zen, more like face planting into the same wall repeatedly.
Yes. Okay, so how do we avoid that? How do we stop?
Well, that's where this thing called reflective practice comes in.
Okay.
Taking stock of what works and what doesn't.
So looking back to move forward, like becoming your own little personal growth coach,
I like that.
Analyzing patterns in your successes
Okay.
and your failures.
So not just beating yourself up when you mess up,
Yeah,
but actually trying to learn from it.
exactly.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we deal with the stuff we can't control? Because
Right.
let's be real, the world is a very unpredictable place.
Oh, it is. And that's where I think Cole's emphasis on embracing uncertainty is so powerful.
Oh.
Because we try so hard to control things.
We do a little
We
bit.
want to plan every detail,
We want the map to have every single little,
every little bump in the road,
yes.
every pothole.
And then life throws a wrench in it. And we're like, what? This wasn't on the map.
The map lied to me.
Exactly. So scenario planning, it helps us loosen our grip a little bit.
On that need to control everything.
So it's more like, instead of being blindsided,
Yeah.
you're kind of like, okay, well, that's not what I expected,
Right.
but I've got a few different plays in my playbook.
Exactly. It's like the difference between, whitewater rafting
Okay.
and being on a cruise ship.
Okay. So one, you're holding on for dear life.
Right.
And the other one, you're just like along for the ride.
You're just along for the ride and then it gets rough and you're seasick,
You're not prepared.
not prepared.
Okay. I like that analogy.
So you've got to be ready for the rapids.
Be ready to navigate.
And that's with external changes, but also internal changes.
Oh, yeah.
Our goals change. What we want changes.
What we want at 18 is not what we want at.
At 30, exactly. And Cole's thing is, that's not failure, that's growth.
It's okay to change your mind.
Exactly.
Speaking of changing your mind, we often think of strategic as being kind of rigid,
Yeah, very like
marching in formation.
Yes.
But this book almost feels like learning to dance.
Yes. That's a great way to put it.
You have to be able to
Respond to your partner.
respond to your partner, respond to the music.
Yeah. And maybe that one person who always steps on your toes.
Yeah. There's always one. But here's, I think, where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Cole emphasizes this idea of aligning all this strategic thinking
Yes.
with your values.
With your values, yes. It's not enough to just achieve any goal.
Right.
It's got to be a goal that means something to you deep down.
Otherwise, you get there and you're like, wait, that's it?
Exactly. You hit the finish line and you're like, I don't even care.
I'm so tired.
I'm exhausted and I don't even care.
Right. And that's not what we want. He says, when you align your actions with your values, you unlock this deeper level of motivation.
Okay, so it's not about the external validation anymore.
It's not about what other people think.
It's about your own internal.
Your own sense of purpose.
Okay.
It's like that person who starts a business, right? They're not just doing it for the money. They're doing it because they're passionate about solving a problem.
They have a mission.
They have a mission. Exactly.
And that passion kind of fuels them through all of the
tough stuff.
The tough stuff, the rejections, the setbacks.
Because it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's not all about solo missions, right?
Right.
We exist in this kind of web of relationships with other people.
100%.
So how does that play into the strategic mind? That's where it gets really interesting. I think Cole reminds us that our choices, they have these ripple effects.
Okay.
It's not about becoming a pushover and just doing what everyone else wants.
Right.
But it's about approaching those relationships with intentionality.
Okay.
How can we collaborate? How can we understand different perspectives? How can we find solutions that work for everyone involved?
So strategic thinking, it's not just about this grand personal journey.
Right.
It's also about how we show up in the world.
Yes, 100%.
In our families, our communities, even beyond that.
It's about recognizing that our growth isn't isolated.
We're all connected.
We're all connected. Our choices impact other people and their choices impact us.
It's like this big interconnected web.
Exactly. And as we kind of wrap up this part of our dive into the strategic mind, I think it's really important to remember that this whole approach, as powerful as it is, it's not about reaching some perfect destination, some endpoint where you're like, I'm strategic now.
I've arrived.
I've made it. I'm strategic. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
It's about the ongoing process of learning, of adapting, of growing.
It's the journey, not the destination.
It is. It's about finding fulfillment in the journey itself, even with all of its ups and downs.
Because there are always going to be ups and downs.
Always.
And maybe, just maybe, this whole process helps us become a little bit more like those people that we really admire.
Okay.
Not because they have it all figured out.
No.
But because they're brave enough to keep learning and keep evolving along the way.
100%.
You know, it strikes me that while the strategic mind gets into some pretty deep concepts, it really comes down to a few core ideas at the end of the day.
It does, yeah. If I were going to try to boil it all down, I'd say it's about awareness, intentionality, and adaptability.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So break those down for us.
Okay, so awareness, that's about really understanding yourself, right? Your strengths, your weaknesses, those things you always trip over.
Yeah, the things we don't like to admit to.
Exactly. But it's also about understanding the playing field you're on.
Okay.
The rules of the game, so to speak.
So the bigger picture.
The bigger picture. What are the forces that are shaping your industry, your relationships, even just your own belief systems? You got to be aware of all that.
So it's we're kind of doing this 360-degree view of our own lives.
Yeah.
But we're also zooming out to see the bigger context.
Exactly. And once you have that awareness, that's where the intentionality comes in.
Okay.
It's about moving through life with a sense of purpose,
Yeah.
Making decisions that actually align with your values, your goals.
Not just reacting to the latest email in your inbox.
Exactly. You're not just along for the ride anymore.
Let's try it.
You're driving the bus. That's a better metaphor.
You're the captain of your ship. Yeah.
There you go. And then adaptability. This one is huge.
Okay.
Because no matter how well you plan, life's going to throw you some curveballs.
Oh, it always does.
Always. So adaptability is about being flexible, adjusting your approach as needed, and even embracing those detours, those unexpected turns as opportunities
to learn,
to grow.
It's like that saying, the only constant is change.
Yeah. I hear that one a lot.
That's so true, though.
It is. But instead of being afraid of it, you're like, okay, I'm going to learn to surf those waves.
Ride the wave.
Yes. And that can be really, really freeing.
It can.
Because we get so caught up in this illusion of control.
We do, yeah.
We think we can plan for every possibility, and the strategic mind is like, no, you can't.
It's okay to let go a little bit.
It's okay. Embrace the unknown.
Trust the process.
Trust the process. You got this. You have the resilience to handle whatever comes your way.
I love that.
Yes.
And this journey, it's not just about weathering the storms, right?
Right.
It's also about finding some joy in it, some fulfillment along the way.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where I think aligning our actions with our values, that's where that really kicks in.
Yeah.
Because when you're passionate about what you're doing, when it's meaningful, the journey itself becomes the reward.
It's like the difference between forcing yourself to climb a mountain because you think you should.
Right.
Versus being drawn to the challenge of it, the beauty of it.
You're enjoying the climb.
You're enjoying the view. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the strategic mind.
Yes.
What's one key takeaway that you really hope listeners will walk away with from this book?
I hope they realize that strategic thinking, it's not this elite skill. Mm-hmm. It's not just for CEOs and chess masters.
It's for all of us.
It's for everyone. It's a mindset,
Yeah.
a way of approaching life, and it's available to anyone.
You don't have to have an MBA.
No, you don't. And the beauty is it's this journey of continuous learning and growth.
I love that. It's not like you arrive.
Right.
It's an ongoing process.
Exactly.
So it's about becoming more aware.
Yes.
More intentional, more adaptable.
Yes. All those things in every part of our lives. And I think that's what's so empowering about it.
Yeah.
It means no matter what challenges come our way, we have the tools to navigate them.
We have those tools within us.
Exactly.
And we can create a future that feels good,
100%.
that feels meaningful, that feels fulfilling.
Well said.
On that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive into the strategic mind. Thank you so much for joining us on this little journey of exploration. And remember,
Yes.
the power to shape your future, it really does lie within you.
It does.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.